Welcome to my ongoing experiment in using the Pentax Q camera for wildlife photography. Although in this case, I'm just having some fun. Now I happened to be on eBay one night and I noticed this lens. It's a new lens. I got it from China for the princely sum of $130 Australian. And it came out very rapidly. It's got a nice lens hood with it and a nice leatherette case to go with it and so on. And it's a Kelda brand, K-E-L-D-A, 420 to 800 millimeter zoom lens. It's a push-pull zoom and it's manual focus. But for $130, well, you know, what do you get? Now, I fully expected it to be a very soft lens, and indeed it is. I would put it probably in terms of going back in the 70s and 80s, if you bought a Pentax lens, or Hanamar they were called quite often, they were a lens that was, you know, okay, but always soft. And you weren't going to get a fantastic image out of it, but you were going to get an image. And that's around about the quality of this Kelda lens. But the point of the experiment was that the Pentax Q has about a 5 times crop factor. A little bit less on this camera here. This is a Pentax QS1, so the crop factor is 4.7. But we use a crop factor of 5 because it's a little easier to multiply together in your head. So let us say that we do this impressive exercise and push it out to 800 millimeters in zoom in focal length. What kind of equivalent focal length have we got? Well, what's 5 times 800? That's nearly 4 meters in focal length. 4 meters, right? Now that's around about, as far as I can figure, about 160 times zoom, which is like impressive. Now I actually managed to get some really good photographs of the moon. Once again, a bit soft, but good fun to play around with once you eventually found the moon with that kind of zoom factor. But now I've gone to an even more ridiculous length. I happen to have a 3 times extender here, a 3 times zoom attachment or converter or whatever you call them in your part of the planet. It's a good quality Japanese one with good optics in it for an extender. I mean, you know, extenders always reduce your image quality and you have to go back a few stops and all that jazz, yes. But I've found in my experience that it helps to, I've got a macro extension tube there, and that actually tidies up a little bit of the image distortion and so on that you get with the extender. So there we have an 800 millimeter lens multiplied by 3. So I've got 2,400 millimeters of focal length in this part of the equipment, and then I've got a 5 times crop factor. So how much focal length do we end up with? Well, it's 12 meters, a bit less than 12 meters on the QS1 camera here. This is a 12 meter focal length camera. What's it like? It's awful. I got to tell you, it's awful. It's so soft, it's, you know, annoying. However, you do get an image. And, you know, even if I never used it for anything else, this is a magnificent spy scope. I can get up on the top of the hill here and watch people in their farmhouses 15 kilometres away. So if you happen to be a pervert or a peeping Tom, it's a really great bit of gear. But there are certain situations in which if in the old days, if you had a Hanamx lens, even with a Hanamx lens, under certain light conditions, particularly if you had the sun behind you, so you weren't getting any kind of lens flare effect at all, and so on, you could quite often manage at least one good image out of a whole series of images. And so I'll persevere with this. The first problem is that 12 meter focal length is an awful lot of zoom. So what are we talking about? We were up to 160 times zoom roughly, and then we've gone 3 times more than that. So what's 3 times 160? Yeah, it's getting on the 600 times zoom. So this is a ridiculous zoom factor, so what do you notice straight away? Vibration. Even the smallest vibration, you know, it sets the thing off on sort of a trip all of its own. It's very hard to make it steady. So, you know, to actually get a practical image out of this, the first step would be to hold it still enough somehow. And this is not the tripod for it. This is a Wi-Fi tripod, which is light, but normally quite adequate for such a small camera. But with this kind of stuff hanging off of it, I mean, even if I've got this without the things up on its extension neck and so on, and this is a Manfrotto video mount, which is quite good, but nonetheless, at 12 meters focal length, just moving your foot on the ground, even if you're standing on concrete, you start the lens moving around. You can see it distorting the image. So if I can stabilize the image properly, which is the next phase of this particular bit of fun I'm having, well, I don't know, maybe I will get some kind of decent image. I'm certainly going to be able to sneak up on the birds, aren't I? You know? But there we are. There's an experiment. Now, is it worth doing? Well, look, I had the 3x converter there, $130 for the lens, or I've got the camera. And this perhaps is the advantage of a Pentax Q over, say, a bridge camera, which is all sorted out, and you get quite a good competent image out of a bridge camera. You've got autofocus, image stabilization to a certain degree built in, and the processor of the camera is matched to the lens and all that sort of stuff. But you can't muck around having this kind of fun with a bridge camera. Is it worthwhile doing? Well, everything you do like this, as ridiculous as it may seem, is teaching you a bit more about photography. You're learning about, like for example, going through the menu system on the Pentax Q, which is almost identical in many respects to the bigger and more expensive Pentax cameras, which is similar to Canon or Nikon in lots of ways. You're starting to use the menu system and all sorts of different settings to try and improve the image that you're getting out of this ridiculous kind of setup. Now, just going through the process of trying to improve an image, which is never going to be great, but just trying to improve it, you're beginning to really understand what you can do with camera settings and so on. And maybe I will eventually get one image out of this that's quite good, and it will cost me $130. But it's fun. Okay?